Welcome, everyone. I'm Marta Wójcik. I'm with the Westcott House, and we are so thrilled to be here. And I'll be joined by Eric Rogers and Mark Dytham to welcome you all. We are so happy to be back. It's just such a wonderful event. I always look forward to it. Although I have to say, I was like practicing breathing because I'm always nervous, you know, like no matter, I don't know. You, Mark, you've done like so many of those. Do you still get a little nervous?
Mark, you're muted. Mark, you're muted.
He's a pro, but he's not immune to making mistakes like that.
Yeah, I just left I was just muted there. Sorry. Yeah, no, always get a few butterflies, but that really helps, I think. So.
Yes. How are you? How are you, Eric?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago, and we're hard at work planning the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy's annual conference. That's a little over a month away. So if you see me distracted during the event, I'm probably emailing with somebody about that. But yeah, this has been such a fun tradition that, you know, a great example of the kind of programming that came out of 2020 that I think, you know, we're going to continue because it brings together such a wide range of people from all over the world and lets us hear from a group of speakers that might not otherwise all come together. And so I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to be part of that. For anyone who doesn't know the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy, we're a small nonprofit based in Chicago, a little over 30 years old. And our mission is to facilitate the preservation and stewardship of the remaining built works of Frank Lloyd Wright, which we do through advocacy, education, including events like this, and providing technical services. Because I think it really surprises people that, with an architect of Frank Lloyd Wright's renown and caliber, that 20% of the buildings realized in his career have already been lost. And of the ones that remain, 50% have no protection. So that's why we exist. And we are always here trying to spread the word about, the significance of Wright's work and the importance of preserving it. So if anybody wants to learn more about us, I encourage you to go to our website, which is savewright.org. We're proud to be a partner with the Westcott House and with PechaKucha on yet another Wright Sites PechaKucha Live.
That's wonderful. And again, Westcott House is an example of how effective Conservancy is at saving those places, because we didn't used to be that pretty. Now you can see it's in its all glory, this beautiful building, but it took some significant effort. So we definitely are big fans of Conservancy. And you speak about the world, and that's what I love about it. It's like I would like to encourage everyone who's joining in to let us know where you're joining from, because we would love to hear who is joining this evening. We pretty much assume that we're going to have people from every continent. We are still yet to conquer Antarctica. Maybe tonight, but it's really kind of like, I almost need to practice my knowledge of world map. It's really awesome. It's one of those unique events that this is really happening. So we are very grateful to PechaKucha team that makes it possible. Mark, how have you been? Oh, and besides, I did need to remind, because for some people who may not be familiar with the Westcott House, we are based in Springfield, Ohio, and this is kind of an eerie photo of the house because the fall is coming, and I love this time of the year. So. But yeah, we'll give you all kinds of links and you can get familiar with us, but I just wanted to point out where we are. And again, this is the 4th volume that we've worked together to put for you, so I hope you enjoy it. We hope you happy that you see us. We visualize when you say where you're from, we are trying to picture you there. So thank you for that. Mark, take us through why we're doing this in a
Sure. So my name is Mark Dytham, and I'm the co-founder of PechaKucha. PechaKucha is Japanese. I'm based in Tokyo. It's 8 a.m. in the morning here, and it's really nice to meet you. And it's fantastic to be here again for the 4th time. Yeah, and as Eric said, this all came out of the pandemic. How we could connect people and bring people together to Frank Lloyd Wright homes when you couldn't visit them. And so, it's been really successful, and really happy to be back. So PechaKucha means the sound of chit chat in Japanese. It started in Tokyo as a one-off event, and over nearly 20 years, it's spread to amazing 1,293 cities to today, which is incredible. We have over 10 events in the next week, which is really amazing around the world, and we're coming back in real life. So please try and find PechaKucha night near you. We've just celebrated our 180th event in Tokyo. That's really nearly one a month for the last 20 years. It was a really great event. We did have our masks on. We just took them off for that shot. So that's been really amazing. But if you go across to our website, just search for Pecha or PechaKucha. As I say, it means the sound of chit chat in Japanese. It's an onomatopoeia, PechaKucha, PechaKucha, PechaKucha. And it's this show and tell format where you just get 20 images for 20 seconds each. And the next one's on, because you know what, architects talk too much. So if you go across to our website, you can, this is on the top of the page right now. So we've got lots of Frank Lloyd Wright presentations there. If you just click on any one of those presentations, it will take you to the next page, Brian, which, so here we have an example, and it's a recorded presentation from one of our last Wright sites. And there's information about the presenter, information about the house, and then the fantastic presentation, 20 slides, 20 seconds. And if you go into the website, just search for Frank Lloyd Wright, and you'll find, really very many presentations. You'll find events like these. These are the last 3 events we've had, which are all archived, and you can search through them and watch them. It really is an amazing archive of his work, and we're really fantastic that it's beginning to build. We also have a community page as well. So again, just search for Frank Lloyd Wright and you'll see community come up in the search, and click on that. And here you can interact with other members. You can join the community. So when we add presentations here, you'll get notified about that. Yeah. So that's a really cool new function. And if you'd like to make a presentation yourself, it's really easy to do now. You just have to click the create button. You also can create events and communities yourself, but you can create a presentation. You just upload 20 images, voice and share on the site, and you can add that to different communities, or you can build your own community about your own house if you want to. So a lot more functionality from this time last year, and this all came out through the pandemic. The last bit of news I want to share is PechaKucha has become an official word in the Cambridge University Dictionary, which is kind of really amazing because it means the sound of chit chat in Japanese, but we've managed to change the meaning of the word to mean short presentation format. So we're excited about that. But I'm really excited to hear all the next presentations coming up. We want to say a big thank you to all the presenters. And again, thank you to Marta and Eric for inviting us to be a part of this. We're really happy, and lots of smiling faces today. So back over to you, Marta.
Absolutely, Mark. Thank you so much. This is really exciting that people also can be creative on their own and create their presentation and practice this type of thing, because it does take practice, and it's a wonderful opportunity. Yes, we are happy to be here with 7 excellent presenters, people who have really made a mark on Frank Lloyd Wright world in a very significant way, in many very different diverse ways. So you're gonna hear a whole variety of subjects and really important ways how we bring this legacy to life today. Anything that, Eric, that we should add, or I think we are trying to address the chat issue. So we're definitely looking at it. Thank you for your patience. We want to hear from you. So there's just some glitch there, but we'll be updating you on that, and we hope that we can see your comments. Should we go ahead? Is everyone ready? Awesome. Well, it's my immense pleasure to give little introductions to our presenters tonight. I see Brian. Brian, do you have any update?
I want to invite all of our presenters to come on stage, and I want to understand what
and I just want to, before that, I just want to say hi to Brian. So Brian is our global dude who looks after all of our events globally in all of our cities globally here at PechaKucha, Brian Scott Peterson. And he's going to be the voice of God tonight in the background. And
Oz, not God.
Oz, yeah, let's say voice of Oz behind the curtain. But Brian does a fantastic job putting all these events on us. So hi, Brian.
Hi, everybody.
If we get the chat working, we have Tomoko in Tokyo who'll be chatting to you and hosting the chat. So fingers crossed.
I'm so sorry. Are we having chat issues? We can't get a chat going. Is that the problem?
Participants are not able to chat.
Okay.
Yeah, the chat is disabled. So I wonder if you could fix that.
Okay. I'm so sorry about that to all our participants. I'll throw it out there right now. It must be an oversight on our part. We're so sorry. What we'll do is we'll try to get the when the presentations start, I'll get in the background to see if we can get that fixed. And if not, send us an email at support@pechakucha.com, and we'll make sure your questions get to our presenters. We will have a Q&A session here at the end. Hopefully, if we can't figure out the chat, we can use ESP,
Brian,
to imagine what your questions are.
can people use YouTube to, can they make comments in YouTube? No, they can't.
They can't make comments in YouTube. Okay, well, let me do a little behind the scenes magic, and let's see what we can come up with. And so sorry about that to our attendees, and we'd hope that. Yeah. Okay.
No problem.
Yeah.
I hope we can fix it. In the meantime, we are here to hear from these wonderful people. So you can see most of our presenters here before we move on to the first presentation. And again, they come from all around the country. So we are really excited. This could not be possible if not for technology. So even though it's sometimes frustrating and surprises us, because I have to tell you, Zoom always surprises me with their updates. But we are still very grateful for this opportunity. So everyone, we just—
Hi, everybody.
Yes, hi everyone.
Let's have a good time.
Yes. And I should mention right now, so just so everyone knows, we're gonna follow up with 3 presentations, then have a very short break, and then we're gonna follow with another 3 presentations. So if you have any questions, we're gonna hope to address, write those down in the meantime, and we're gonna try to get that going. And we're gonna have a bit of conversation toward the end, so you can learn more about everyone involved here. I think we should get going, right?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Right.
So our first speaker tonight is Eric O'Malley, and I'm so grateful for Eric's participation, because it's one of those presentations that is just about someone's immense creativity. Eric is just incredibly creative, and his work is fabulous. He's a graphic designer and passionate architecture enthusiast, as you will see. He holds a BFA in graphic design from Millikan University and has designed and produced numerous architectural publications. He has been associated with the preservation efforts of Frank Lloyd Wright works for 20 years and volunteered with numerous organizations. He helped co-found the popular preservation news blogs Prairie Mod and Wright Society, which we are all big fans of. In 2013, he co-founded the nonprofit organization Organic Architecture and Design Archives to preserve and make publicly accessible the archival material of those who created work in the organic tradition. He currently lives and works in the Chicagoland area. Thank you, Eric, for being here. We are so grateful, and we will provide everyone with links to your Instagram account. That's where they can see more of your art, and some other links to the archives too, because that's just such a big initiative and so needed. So thank you for your work, and let us know when you're ready, and Brian will start the presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. And I am ready when you are. Good evening. My name is Eric O'Malley, and I'd like to take the opportunity to share some insights into the topic of nature abstractions, exploring a Taliesin tradition. It's a fascinating subject I've become very passionate about, both in studying its history and in practice of creating my own personal designs. Frank Lloyd Wright is world famous as one of the 20th century's foremost creators of 3-dimensional architectural masterworks. However, being a professional graphic designer myself, it's the amazing variety of Wright's 2-dimensional creations that hold special fascination for me. One graphic expression developed and mastered by Wright that I've spent the last few years exploring in depth was his unique ability to look at the natural world for inspiration and conventionalize what he observed into geometric shapes, grid structures, and repeating modular patterns. There were 3 major influences that helped Frank Lloyd Wright in developing his abstraction proficiency. The first was exposure to Friedrich Froebel's gifts, which fostered creative hands-on learning. These gifts included playing with geometric wooden blocks, interweaving colorful paper designs, and arranging shape patterns on grid paper. The second influence was working as a draftsman for his mentor, Louis Sullivan, in the late 1800s. Hired to hand draw the abstracted ornament that decorated buildings like the Chicago Auditorium, Wright soon absorbed Sullivan's ideas on conventionalizing the natural world and its integration as architectural ornament. But it was Frank Lloyd Wright's discovery of Japanese art that would have a lifelong influence on his own creative works. Japanese prints exhibited the elegant simplification of nature and showed how stripping away everything but the essence of a subject revealed the simple beauty in its true nature. With these influences and years of experience, Frank Lloyd Wright was able to develop his own methodology for taking a subject of inspiration like blooming hollyhocks, for example, and abstract the forms into a pattern of lines and nesting squares for the ornamentation of Unity Temple's concrete columns. Wright's ideas and abstraction methodology were eventually absorbed and furthered by his own apprentices, primarily Eugene Masselink. Gene's own proficiency at abstracting natural forms made him the individual in the Taliesin Fellowship that all the rest turned to as a master of this process. Other notable Taliesin apprentices like Vern Swaback, Ling Po, John Amarantidis, Susan Jacobs Lockhart, and many more also made nature abstractions, interpreting the methodologies set forth by Wright and furthered by Masselink as a guide for creating their own works. For my own creative development, I was fortunate to have another Taliesin Fellowship member as my nature abstraction mentor, architect, educator, and graphic designer, Ari Georges. Ari and I became friends while serving together on the board of the Taliesin Fellows, and we soon discovered our mutual interest in nature abstractions. During the pandemic, we turned a stressful and isolating experience into something positive by holding regular online sessions discussing the history, ideas, and methodology of creating nature abstractions. I started keeping a sketchbook of my practices and was able to hone my own abstraction approach. With Ari's mentoring, I was able to distill the methodology of creating nature abstractions into some helpful guiding steps. Step 1, select the subject to abstract and gather a variety of reference images. You can use the internet, books, or your own photos. Step 2, spend time observing your subject and create a realistic study sketch. By doing this process first, I'll notice qualities about the plant that help me understand how it can be geometrically abstracted. Additionally, I will often add Taliesin-inspired typography to these initial sketch studies. Once I've completed my initial study, step 3 will begin the process of creating a simplified geometric unit module that, when repeated on a grid, will form the basis of the larger pattern. For example, blossoms could become sectioned circles. Complicated leafy branches could be made from a series of repeating diamonds. Once I have my unit module established, I will construct the grid structure in step 4. That will be used to build out the larger pattern. The grid can be simple, constructed of squares, triangles, or circles. With practice, grids can be more complex, with multiple geometries overlapping and intersecting each other. Step 5 begins the process of populating your grid structure with a pattern made of your unit modules. The units should follow your grid in a way that naturally expresses a repetition of individual parts, but also reflects a larger cohesive design. The part is to the whole as the whole is to the part. Step 6 is a personal creative choice. I will sometimes erase away the underlying grid to bring out the negative breathing space in my abstractions. But there are other times I'll leave the grid in place as part of the overall design. The choice is ultimately yours. If you want to go beyond the pencil sketch, then step 7 is where you could explore the addition of color and texture into your design. I will often experiment with using closely drawn vertical or horizontal lines of different colors to add these types of elements to my patterns. Step 8 sees everything come together into the completed nature abstraction. The design becomes a personal, simplified expression of the subject you observed in real life. The more you practice, the more you can experiment playing with shapes, grid relationships, and how abstract to go. The most important thing is to have fun and enjoy the process. I hope you've enjoyed my exploration of the history and processes behind creating nature abstractions in the Taliesin tradition. To see more of my abstracted sketches and other graphic creations, please visit my Instagram profile at instagram.com/eric.o'malley. Thank you.
Yay.
Great job, Eric. That was really amazing. Wow. It's really lovely to see how you break down that grid. Yeah, sometimes you think a geometric pattern is going to be too strong, you know, but I really felt the sort of the nature coming through as you broke down that grid. Really fantastic. Thank you.
It's been something that's actually been a little sanity saving over the course of the last few years. And I really give a lot of credit to Ari that, you know, he was able to kind of guide me through the process of exploring. And, you know, you go down some blind alleys once in a while, but, you know, ultimately the more I just keep doing more and more of them in my little sketchbook, and it's kind of a way to decompress the day's stress. So I very much enjoy doing it.
I should have said right at the beginning that I'm an architect. That's my day job. PechaKucha night is the thing I did in the evening. But we're architects, and as Brian will attest, we use a lot of pattern in our work, and maybe it's subliminal coming from all of this presentations we watch from Frank Lloyd Wright. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
good. Thank you.
Fabulous. Well, thank you,
Eric.
and
a shout out.
And we will move on, if you don't mind, because we want to keep on schedule, and we're going to have a conversation after the third talk. So I will introduce now Heather, who's joining us from Wisconsin, from Madison, Wisconsin. Heather has been, she has over 25 years of experience in museum education. And she manages all things Wright at Monona Terrace. And so you're going to see some photos of that fabulous complex in Madison. She designs learning experiences, large and small, including workshops, lectures, fairs, and tours. She is also a volunteer administrator and coordinated the 3 permanent exhibitions housed at the terrace. Heather fell in love with her job as a tour guide at Taliesin in early 1990s, provoking her to pursue Masters in Museums Education from George Washington University. She has held positions at a variety of cultural organizations, including a historic house, architectural landmarks, and a fruit and vegetable learning garden, which I love. Thank you. Thank you, Heather, for being here. We've known each other for quite a while, and it's such a pleasure to have you here. So thank you. And whenever you're ready, let us know, and Brian will start.
Thanks for having me. Okay, let's do it. In 1949, scholar Joseph Campbell wrote that stories throughout history share a common structure called the hero's journey. Like Prometheus, Luke Skywalker, and Rocky before him, Frank Lloyd Wright went on his own mythic journey that lasted over 20 years. Join me as we retrace the steps of the Monona Terrace project. Step 1, ordinary world. Let's meet our protagonist, Wright, in the mid-1930s when our story begins. He's experiencing a renaissance at age 70, internationally recognized for projects like Falling Water and the Johnson Wax buildings. His ordinary world is a bustling architectural office with an abundance of work. Steps 2 and 3, the hero's call to adventure and refusal to the call. Madison citizen Paul Harloff asked Wright to throw his hat in the ring to design a city-county government building on this downtown site. Though Harloff feels rebuffed when he doesn't hear back from Wright, he later reads in the newspaper that Wright has made a presentation to the Madison Lions Club. Yep, he wants the job. Wright's relationship with Madison is well complicated. He spent most of his boyhood years here and had a true fondness for the isthmus and lakes. And yet he's angry that the city has overlooked him for prestigious projects. He wants to give Madison the civic structure it deserves that would embrace Lake Monona, not turn its back on it. Step 4, the hero meets the mentor. Enter William Evu, pictured here on the right, editor and publisher of Madison's liberal newspaper, the Capital Times. He's an advisor to and defender of Wright's. In this editorial, Evu declares Wright must be a true son of America because he asked for a second piece of pie when they had dinner together. What's more patriotic than that? Step 5, the hero crosses the first threshold. The Dane County Board of Supervisors is scheduled to meet on November 3rd, 1938, to vote on whether to build the design you see on the left, a city-county building. One supervisor opposes the project, invites Wright to come to the meeting to present an alternative. So our architect is the proverbial red herring. This plan presents a curvilinear geometry inspired by the state capitol's dome 2 blocks away, and a symmetrical arrangement of courtrooms, jails, and auditorium. Note a 4-lane lakefront drive for cars, and the 2 blue semicircular features, which are small waterfalls carrying water from the rooftop fountains to the lake. After the meeting's adjourned, Wright says that maybe Madisonians will decline Monona Terrace because they will be too provincial, backwater, smug, and satisfied, his words. Despite that slap in the face, the supervisors are distracted enough by Wright's vision that they vote no to build that original proposal. And now let's move ahead to 1953. Mary Lesko here, an ally pictured here, and fellow activist Helen Groves are fearless leaders of Citizens for Monona Terrace. Undeterred by the media label of professors' wives, they accomplished the unimaginable. They convinced leaders to add a question to the referendum, asking Madison to vote on Frank Lloyd Wright as project architect. Here's Wright's character assassin number 1, Joe Jackson. He's had an axe to grind since 1938, when Wright swooped in and destroyed that first city-county project he championed. Jackson accused Wright of being a communist and questioned his competence. Quote, "I thoroughly detested Wright as a man and despised him as an American citizen," unquote. Step 7, the hero approaches the cave and everyone gets ready for battle. Local professor Edmund Zawacki attaches loudspeakers to his 1949 Ford and drives around the Capitol with a square with the message, "Vote Wright, vote for the Monona Terrace site." Wright, for his part, pens a scathing opinion piece for the Capital Times. In it, he claims the Madison's nickel pinchers were doing nothing to honor the 3 great gifts bestowed upon their city: the capital of a great state, the site of a once upon a time famous university, and being favored by nature herself as no other living city. The hero faces the ordeal. Victory. The majority of voters in the 1954 referendum approved the city to build an auditorium on the lakeshore site, and 52% said yes to Wright as architect. He proudly calls the election the only one I know of in America where the architect was chosen by the people. Step 9, the hero seizes the reward. Wright returns to the drafting table in 55, and the office spends thousands of studio hours on a model with removable parts to show 2 phases. Phase 1 on the left shows the core of the building. Phase 2, lakefront parking rings and office towers, Wright calls moneymakers. This 1955 drawing presents those lakeshore parking spaces on 3 levels, no doubt a response to the city's need for more downtown parking. And here we see a marvelous trio of fountains called Sun, Moon, and Earth, inspired by the Capitol Dome in the background. Step 10, the hero takes the road back. A fly on the wall of this office might hear Madison Mayor Ivan Nestigan say, "The city has a $4 million budget for a civic auditorium." And then the fly might hear Wright respond with, "Well, I've got an auditorium here, but also a boat marina, train depot, small theater, and art gallery, all for $17 million. Step 11, resurrection. The hero's taken to the edge of death. In 1957, state legislator Carol Metzner successfully passes a bill prohibiting any public structure taller than 20 feet on the Monona Lakeshore. In 2 years, the bill's repealed, and Wright produces the new drawing. Step 12, the hero returns with the elixir and has new understanding. Just a few weeks after that bill is repealed, Wright dies. When asked about the project at the end of his life, he conveys a newfound faith in his hometown. And if they don't build it, well, let's see what will happen 10 years from now. It will come about someday. And his instincts were correct, for there's a new hero who emerges on the scene in 1989 and starts his own journey. This is Anthony Putnam, former Taliesin apprentice and member of Wright's successor firm. Madison officials ask him if the 59 Monona Terrace designs can be adapted for a convention center. And yes, indeed. And in 1997, we open our doors. Here we are 25 years later as a convention center, tourist destination, and community gathering place. Wright's Dream Civic Center is finally realized. And though we don't often think of Wright as a hero, his commitment, level of compromise, and passion for Monona Terrace suggests the project was not only a Herculean effort, but a labor of love.
Wow.
Story.
Wonderful.
What a story, huh?
What a
Star Wars,
story.
Rocky, forget it. It's the Madison story is the one. Really well told. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. 60 years of history distilled to 6 minutes. So about a minute per decade.
Wow. Great.
I just can't believe someone had to drive around in a campaign car with a loudspeaker.
That was a great slide.
That's my favorite.
A lot of applause in the chat here as well. You got a lot of fans. I see our own Madisonian, which I love just the sound of Madisonian. Our own Madisonian Heather is you're getting some cheers, and all somebody's writing about their wedding reception there, so that must be another reason.
Oh wow,
the blog plays. Yeah,
excellent.
And thanks everybody for telling us where you are in the chat. We've got people from all around the world, from Germany, different places, and all across America. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm trying to think what time they have there, and you guys. I mean, it's just like sometimes I'm just really admiring people that they stay up or get up early. So thank you for that. Heather, you were like
1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh,
Germany's 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, well, 2 o'clock actually. 2 o'clock in the morning. Wow.
Amazing. Well, Heather, thank you. This is you also did like you hardly took breath. It was like go, which was fabulous.
I kept my asthma inhaler right next to the computer. Really.
Well, you did so well. Thank you. And again, a reminder, post questions in the chat, everyone, and we will circle back to our presenters to ask them any questions you may have. So I think we are ready for our third presenter, Kieran Murphy. Kieran, how do you say your name properly, your first name? Is there
Kieran?
Kieran, okay. You know, I sometimes butcher things because I have this Polish accent that doesn't leave me no matter what. So well, I love your name, and I'm gonna introduce you here because there is a lot people should know about you. So first of all, we're gonna provide you with that link, but Kieran has a very interesting blog at kieranmurphy.com, and she also has those posted on her Facebook page, so make sure to check it out. Among other things, she has written an autobiography in wood and stone in the Frank Lloyd Wright Quarterly. After receiving a master's degree in art history from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, she began work at Taliesin Preservation. While there, she was involved in the research, preservation, and interpretation of Frank Lloyd Wright's Taliesin estate, which includes 5 structures designed by the architect. She became the historian and interpreted archival images, drawings, oral histories, and personal accounts for needed historical research. It's been her privilege to become one of the world's experts on the history of Frank Lloyd Wright's Wisconsin home. And that's no small feat because it's such a complex project. So we are so happy to have you here, and please let us know when you're ready.
Okay. Yes, I am ready right now. Okay. Okay, when I moved to Wisconsin 30 years ago in June, I didn't even know Frank Lloyd Wright had been born in this state. I knew nothing about him. I just came out to Wisconsin to go to grad school, and I found that there was a job to give tours, and so I thought it would be a nice summer job. I started giving tours the year that I got my degree, and giving tours taught me a lot about the community at Taliesin, and also, of course, about the architect himself. And oh, we've got a nice picture here of not of myself, but of another professional tour guide at Walt Disney World with just a picture of my face on top of her. And the architect in this photograph, of course, is Frank Lloyd Wright, and he is at Taliesin. He worked on Taliesin almost continuously from 1911 until he died in 1959. And in many ways, Taliesin was his sketchbook. He moved doors around, he experimented with colors and fabrics, and eventually he was able to do changes at Taliesin because of the Taliesin Fellowship that he and Olgivanna Lloyd Wright had founded in 1932. And here's a picture of two of the apprentices in the fellowship making a change to Taliesin under Wright's direction. They're building the Monona Terrace, and the photograph after this shows you the Monona Terrace about 40 or 50 years later from the underside. And you can see the wood is looking a little tired there. Taliesin Preservation that I had given tours for started off doing the preservation work at Taliesin in 1994, and then moved it back over to the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. In addition to the structures of Taliesin, there are also the drawings related to Taliesin, which is going to come into my story a little bit here, because you can't really trust the drawings of Taliesin. And I sort of had put that out, like, as a rule, I was just not going to listen to the drawings. And apparently I wasn't looking at the building strongly enough. As I was learning the history a bit of this building. But fortunately, I had a revelation one day, and that did have to do with a photograph of Taliesin. And it showed me that I had been shutting my mind off from the actual reality. This photo that you're seeing right now was taken in the mid-1940s by Ezra Stoller. And when I saw it, there was something in the photo that didn't match what I knew from historic photographs and what exists today. And this is a close-up of that photo, and the change in the building was right next to the little birch tree you see there. I happened to come across this photograph in the winter of 1998. I happened to be working at Taliesin, literally, when I saw this in a book. Where I worked was about 2 courtyards away from this photo that you can see. So I just popped on my winter coat and I walked out to the building thinking that maybe, possibly, I would see something. I didn't think I would. But I saw that vertical line that I've got pointed out in the photograph. I saw the vertical line right there. And I noticed that the stone was different on the left side of the line or the right side of the line. So I had ignored that. So I jumped back to the office to look at a drawing, thinking that I would not see anything in the drawing because you can't trust the drawings. Well, guess what? I was wrong. I took out my little magnifying glass, I looked at the drawing, and I could see in the drawing the room that was in that photograph. And obviously I've outlined it here in red. What this showed me was that I had experienced or seen something in a drawing and seen something in the building, and I had completely ignored it because, I don't know, I guess I had too much of an ego. Fortunately, I did eventually find historic photographs that showed that room in the 1940s from a different angle. Unfortunately, I was also able to readjust my approach to every room that I looked at Taliesin. Every time I tried to find out the history of the building, but room by room, I tried to empty out my ego and start from scratch every single time. Oh, and these photos here, this drawing of all the stone, those are all the different stone configurations you see at Taliesin. So those give you a very good idea of how things are changing over time. So what I've learned through working at Taliesin and working with Taliesin is to keep my ego out of it, and also that Taliesin keeps its history within its walls. Fortunately for me, and I guess fortunately for the building itself. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Wow.
Another great
good
story. Huh? Wow.
Thanks for coming.
I'm glad that they don't keep their records perfectly as well, like we don't keep them perfectly in our office. Yeah, that adds to the mystique, you know. As much as you want to be tidy and keep everything correctly, but it's really fascinating. That was a really great insight. Thank you.
Yeah,
like
definitely.
A detective. You are like a detective, aren't you? I mean, it's layers of history. And
yeah, and he kept a lot of details and history within the buildings themselves. He didn't tend to clean up after himself when he was making changes. So you're able to get most of it. Yeah.
And then there is whole layer of all the tragic history of that place, right? And rebuilding and just really layers of different phases of the building. I can't even imagine how you dissect that, and it's just the most amazing. It takes patience, and our world is somehow going against what historians and curators and researchers have to do, because it takes time and patience. But it's so worth it.
It's quite interesting here in Japan. Yeah, fire is a big issue that makes buildings and temples and projects like that be rebuilt and changed because of that. Did they have many fires at Taliesin? Has that been?
Two major fires that completely destroyed the living quarters.
Oh,
one in 1914 and one in 1925. And when I say they destroyed the living quarters, I mean everything in that part of the building, down to the stone. And actually, if you look at my blog, I write about both the 1925 fire and the 1914 fire. And of course, you can read about it in many places. So.
Lots of interest in the chat here as well. I think I read somebody was going to go back and check the stone themselves on their next visit to Taliesin. Kind of cool.
So we are officially entering our little break, and it's just tiny little break. So if you guys want to grab something to drink, or if you need to take a little break, it's 5 minutes max, and we will return with 3 more presenters. So please take this moment, and we are really kind of, I don't know if it's a rule anymore, guys, maybe it's not, but we got used to, as PechaKucha organizers, to that break being absolutely mandatory. So as it often takes place at social gathering in a brewery or some other fun place, and people always take that time to replenish their drink. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
I have
That's true. Our handshake agreement with city organizers, those 1,200 cities that Mark mentioned, they've all signed an agreement that says that they'll organize their events, and there will be a beer break in their events.
Well, but they're usually, when they're happening live, there's usually even more presenters, so you would really be in a tough spot if you tried to plow through without any brakes.
I think Mark, I mean,
Yeah,
that came to be because, well, maybe I should let, how did that come to be, Mark?
Yeah, well, we had the projector started because we had a space called Super Deluxe, an art space. And we also had a kind of a micro brewery project going on at the same time. So PechaKucha started because we didn't have enough events to fill our space. And our Japanese financial director said, you need to invent an event. And so we'd been using Keynote on the Mac, which didn't crash. And on our Monday morning meetings, we still have them every Monday morning. We have a show and tell about what's gone on your construction site, or if you've had a factory visit to see something being made. And just to keep everybody concise and on time, they only get 20 slides a second. And we do that every Monday morning. And it's a really great to see where people have been at the weekend, what shows have been on. And then we thought, well, that'd be great. Why don't we take it to Super Deluxe, our art space, and have an event there and find out what everybody else is inspired by? But again, you know what architects are like, we talk on forever. So we really quickly came up with the idea of 20 slides, 20 seconds, and we had 10 to 15 people present in an evening. And the idea was thinking and drinking, and you could meet people at the bar. There were no Q&A, so they kept everybody on time, just a quick chit chat, a minute between presentations. And that was a way that we could get people to talk to really famous people, like Kengo Kuma presented, Toyo Ito presented, and they could chat to people at the bar, And it's been.
They could buy beer. They could buy the
they could
micro
buy a beer. So that's why they could buy a Tokyo Ale, which was the name of our beer.
Delicious beer, yeah. And there were 2 breaks. There was 3 sets.
Yeah,
two beer breaks.
It got so popular with 2 beer breaks and 2 bars.
Say again, Kieran.
Did you ever have Kieran beer?
Oh, we should have.
No, we don't have isotonic beers. No. We have lots of beers. We have lots of Japanese beers, but yeah, we just had our own home brew, so our own real ale.
Okay,
so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, because every time I go out
made
to
with
a
special Japanese.
restaurant,
Say again, Kieran.
I always have to drink Kieran beer because
you're Kieran, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally different, pronounced the same. But
Oh, I see where you're going. Okay, got it. Kieran beer, got it. Yeah.
Sapporo
is not the same for you, huh, Kieran?
Oh. Well, everyone, we need to plug in our request. If you kindly consider, you have opportunity to donate specifically to this event to keep it moving. So if you follow that QR code, and we'll put I'll put it in the chat, the link as well. But if you're willing, anything helps, and we of course plan to really keep this partnership going.
Yay.
So we really hope next year we do it again. So thank you in advance, and thank you for those who already donated. We also want to remind of couple events, or rather one especially big event that is coming up. So I'll let Eric touch on that. I think we have a slide on the conference.
Yeah, thanks, Marta. So as I mentioned, I'm a little frazzled right now. We're pulling everything together for our big annual conference, which is actually right here where our office is in downtown Chicago. We'll be based. And this will be the third time that the Conservancy has held a conference in Chicago. Every time we revisit the city, we kind of tour some different sites. And there's always a different theme for the Conservancy's conference. So this year, it's the progressive city, Wright and his Chicago contemporaries, which is really trying to situate Frank Lloyd Wright, and particularly his early career, amid the urban reform movements and the really progressive and idealistic designers who were his contemporaries in the Chicago area, in the 1890s and the first decade of the 1900s. And we're really excited about that theme because I think it speaks to a lot of challenges that are really salient today. The urban crises that Wright and his contemporaries were addressing or attempting to address many of them have cycled back to us in different forms today. So this is an interesting opportunity to kind of explore those connections. And then, of course, the heart and soul of our conference, we also get to tour more than a dozen Wright design buildings. So it's not too late if anybody wants to plan an adventure to Chicago for at least the next few days. You can still buy a ticket to attend the conference in person, and you can still get a hotel room in our block. And the dates to attend in person are October 19th to 23rd. We will also be offering an online participation option. It's looking like we'll get that open to registration next week. You'll be able to live stream all the sessions, and then we'll have a couple of special video events that'll be part of that as well. And that'll take place over the weekend of October 22nd and 23rd. You'll be able to live stream things then or watch recordings for 3 months. So if any of this has struck a chord with you, or if you're curious, I encourage you to check out our website and specifically savewright.org/conference. You'll find a lot more information about the in-person experience that we're offering. And then by next week, you will see information about the online offering and be able to register for that as well. And I know a number of our presenters will be there. I'm looking forward to seeing you all. Of course, we have some great parties as well. That's part of it. So it will be a good time for everybody. And yeah, thanks so much for letting me give a little plug.
Eric, we didn't get our invite in Tokyo yet. We're still waiting for that.
Yeah, we're waiting.
Have to have a word with our mailing service.
We want to come. We want to come.
These are fantastic because the access to the houses that you otherwise can't see, it's just amazing. And kudos to you for organizing this kind of event. I mean, last 3 years has been just everyone who does event organizing of this kind is absolutely a saint. So kudos to you. Thank you. And I think we have maybe one more reminder on, Westcott has a Wright raffle. We started that program in 2019 and then, or 18. And then, with COVID, there was no way to really excite people about traveling. So we finally have this opportunity, and it's really fun program, and it supports the Westcott House. But I also should say, people who choose a destination, we do support that particular site financially through this program. So whatever you choose, they also gonna benefit from this program. So with that, I'm gonna move on. I think we have a slide coming up for the next presenter, and then afterwards, after we have 3 presentations done, we'll have more chat, and we'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So keep challenging us with your difficult questions. We have fabulous people here, Norm and Dale. They are the lucky owners of an incredible home, and they're going to tell us all about it. So I'm just going to introduce you here. Norm Silk and Dale Morgan are owners of the Dorothy Turco House in Detroit, Michigan. Designed in 1955 for parking lot Harris Dorothy Turco, this Usonian automatic is the largest and the only two-story one of the 7 built. In 2006, they purchased the vacant and long neglected house. After several years of extension restoration, they began living in the house in 2011. As both business and life partners of more than 45 years, they have always had an interest in historic properties, which included living in 1923 Mediterranean home, an 1885 Victorian, a Chicago high-rise, as well as restoring an 1949 iconic bar in Midtown Detroit. Norman and Dale are longtime owners of Blossoms, a large retail florist located in Birmingham, a suburb of Detroit. Beginning as event designers, they have enjoyed designing events and flowers for many well-known people, including Aretha Franklin. And they love to entertain and host fundraising charity events at the house, which always draws interest. And this quote by Frank Lloyd Wright expresses their feelings. You have to go wholeheartedly into anything in order to achieve anything worth having. I love that quote. Thank you so much for being here. And again, you let us know when you're ready.
All right, it's our pleasure to be here. We're going to talk about living and entertaining in a Wright house. So
he's Norm and I'm Dale.
Yes.
I'm decorative. He's the brilliant one.
So let's get started. So before we could start living and entertaining in the house, we had to start at ground zero. As you can see on the left, that's how the house looked originally. It hadn't been lived in at least 2 years and was in really tough shape. It had no working systems. And so it took us several years to get it livable. The shot on the right is current. This is the music room, again, before and after. The top shot is before, the lower shot is after. And we're sitting in the music room now. You can see the windows in the background. The original Philippine mahogany paneling. This is a shot of the balcony, looking at the second floor balcony that overlooks the music room. You can see where we tried to get paint off the concrete. And you can see on the right where we have a party going on in the room. It's a really important feature. Now Wright did not design any landscaping for the house, and it didn't have anything except dead grass and 4 original trees. So the shot on the left is before, the shot on the right now. We've added a large garden. This is a collaboration that we maintained with a local art gallery. They offered us the option to photograph our house and place art digitally into the various rooms. In addition, they offered to donate 10% of the proceeds to a charity, and we'll see more slides of that later. This is, we donated an event to Ronald McDonald House as a fundraiser, and one of one of Tom Monahan, who was a former owner and was the owner of Domino's Pizza, bought the package, and that was the event that we hosted. This is an event that we hosted with, we planted sunflowers in the neighborhood, and as an incentive for people to donate to the project, we hosted a thank you party, and so it caused people to donate. This is a wine tasting. We had several wine tastings that were, we had a connection with the Kroger company, and we hosted wine tastings on the terrace, dinner, which were very enjoyable. We had Michael Mondavi from Mondavi Winery was one of our guests at the event, at one of the events. We also hosted Fernando Frescobaldi, who's in the next slide, you'll see.
We visited his villa in Italy. It was a nice time. He shared our house and we shared his.
This is Mr. Frescobaldi in the upper corner, but those were always really fun events. We provided the decor and the background, and people really learned so much about Wright. They were so exposed to the property. And then we hosted several dinners as fundraisers for the Conservancy. These were donated to the auction as prizes and sold for several $100s. These are 3 examples of dinners that we hosted on, one in the music room, one on the terrace, and a really great chance to meet people. We were able to rent the house a couple of times. That's not something we really want to do, but we were approached by the Kresge Foundation, and they wanted to do an event in a historic home. And so we provided the background It was a catered event, and those were the tables. And this was a benefit that we hosted for a neighborhood park, an Olmsted design park, fundraiser so that we could make improvements to the park. And we hosted an afternoon party and a silent auction. And we probably had about 125 people for that event. This was part of the library gallery site presentation. It's called Site. This is the artist Tony Mattini, who this is photoshopped or digitally added to the garden, this sculpture. This was a political fundraiser we had. This is our current governor.
She's often known as that woman from Michigan.
And on the right, our mayor, Mayor Duggan. So we had, again, the house is the draw. It brought a lot of people to the fundraiser, and it was fun. This was a fun event. It's a local pottery company called Pewabi Pottery that's been around for over 100 years, an institution in Detroit, and they offered a mobile demonstration as one of their fundraisers. We bought the package. We invited about 30 friends to come and watch this demonstration. We were fortunate enough to have to be featured in a book with 30 other modern buildings in Michigan. And this was the photography session that was done on site. Photographer was there all day taking pictures of various angles and shots, but nice coffee table book. This again is the photograph from the site. All of the artwork against the wall is digitally added. So the rest of the room is our room, and they took out our artwork and digitally added the pieces. And we were lucky enough to have the movie Sparkle with Whitney Houston filmed at our house. So this is one of the scenes on the left is a night shot with big lights up in the tree, all the crew along the sidewalk, and kind of a sleazy character in the doorway of the kitchen. And then the last shot is just our friends and family enjoying various time on the terrace for lots of dinners, lots of things. It looks like we had Easter dinner in the middle, but everybody loves to come. Nobody likes to leave, so they stay longer than they should. But everybody has a great time.
And they're always welcome to stay longer.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh.
Norman Dale, thank you. That was really wow. There were so many comments going on. Wow in the comment section there. It's so great. We always focus on architecture and how they remade the house and things. But this is one of the first presentations where we've seen what happens in the house and the content. And that was so important, I think, to Frank Lloyd Wright's projects, how he brought in the community, how he had these events with Hollywood stars and all the goings on inside the house. So it was really fantastic presentation and really brilliant insight, and thank you for doing so much and raising so much money with all these incredible projects and events you have there. Fantastic.
Great. Well, we're lucky enough to live here, so that's our part.
And I was really surprised how big those windows are. I'd always seen it in books, but I didn't realize they were that. I imagine they were sort of glass block size. So it's quite interesting to see them with people next to them and see how much bigger they are in real life, and the corner detail too. Yeah.
The only house out of the 7 that were built that has 24-inch full-size windows.
Right.
They're half windows.
And someone asked, how can you get so lucky to get into one of those parties? And I think we have one of the answers is if you become member of the Conservancy, those guys they really do all kinds of amazing things and generous things for the Conservancy. So I think you're probably going to plan an event or two in the future.
I hear a rumor that we might have a Detroit area conference in the future.
That would be great. And
I think you should hold a PechaKucha night there. We should do one of these events in your house. Yeah, okay. I think that's the next. We'll come over for that.
With Aretha Franklin, please.
Too late for that.
Brilliant.
So we have so many questions, and we're going to circle back. But let's keep moving, and we'll get through presentations, and then we're gonna have Q&A. So our next presenter is Sydney Papinchak. And I think Sydney, I don't know if I say it right. It's yes. So Sydney, I had a pleasure to meet you well, earlier this year, and it's this project. Wait and see, guys. You're gonna love to learn more about it. Sydney is an aspiring entrepreneur and recent graduate of Washington and Jefferson College with BA in Business Administration and Psychology. In 2020, she transitioned out of the academic world and into the assistant director role at Wright at Polymath Park, which we'll link. You really want to know that link and that website. Over the past 2 years, she has brought Polymath Park to a new level through implementing new philosophies, organizing and creating new programs, social media exposure, and overall operational improvements. During this time, Sydney's found the confidence to explore her true passion for entrepreneurship. She founded 2 companies in 2021 that will allow her to pursue and make use of her true talents in hospitality and as a restaurateur. Do I say it right? Restaurateur. This is an awesome word that I love what it means. I really do. In her leisure times, Sydney serves as a board member for the Young Preservationists Association of Pittsburgh. Sydney, thank you for being here, and we want to hear all about Polymath Park. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you for having me. I am ready. Today, I have the pleasure of sharing the preservation success story of 2 Frank Lloyd Wright homes that were saved and moved to Polymath Park. Pictured here is myself and my younger sister, Courtney. We're the proud daughters of Tom and Heather, the crazy couple that decided moving and saving Frank Lloyd Wright homes was their life's work. I think this goes without saying, but we didn't exactly have a conventional childhood. Not everyone is taught the process of relocating a house or how to give an in-depth tour at the age of 7, but I didn't know any different. So our story begins with the Duncan House, originally located in Lau, Illinois, just over 600 miles from Polymath Park. It came to us in 4 containers with each piece marked and labeled, and to 7-year-old me, it was like a life-size Lego set. I know when my dad opened the first container, he knew it was going to be a long and fun road ahead of him. The process of watching my father and his crew resurrect the Duncan House was my favorite thing to do. I often asked to go and see the progress of the project, of course, always asking when it was going to be finished. It seemed like it took forever for the house to be complete. But in retrospect, 9 months was a pretty impressive turnaround, so good job, Dad. As guests began to come and visit, we realized that the Duncan House was much more than just a house. It was a home. First to the Duncans, but then to every individual that got to experience it for themselves thereafter. This piece of architecture, almost lost to history, was a vehicle to inspire thousands of people today. Little did we know the love and dedication that we poured into the Duncan House and Polymath Park for 10 long years was just planting roots for the beginning of this preservation legacy. As I became older, I realized what a blessing it was for our family to be the stewards of these legendary homes. And let me tell you, the fun did not stop there. After years of hard work, dedication, and a lot of sacrifice, my family was presented with saving and relocating the Lindholm House, also designed by Mr. Wright. With this Grand Usonian came years of the Lindholm family's memories and love. We knew it was so much more than a house. Once again, it was a home. And we wanted to honor that every step of the way. Pictured here is my family and the McKinneys, the last generation to live in the home. The Lindholm House, also known as Mantilla, was designed in 1952 for R.W. Lindholm and his family in Cloquet, Minnesota. During the dismantling of Mantilla, my father and his crew lived in the house until they couldn't anymore. It was important to my father that he understood all he could about the house to ensure the success of the project. I don't think you can be any more in tune with the space than that. There were no cutting corners when it came to dismantling this home. Here you can see the about 7,000 terracotta roof tiles that were each carefully removed, labeled, and categorized for the move back to PA. But they didn't always look that nice and neat. It was a tedious process of mapping out the roof and then carefully taking each tile off, labeling it based on the section, and individually wrapping each piece for transit to PA. As they started the rebuild here, they had to hand clean and restore each tile before completing the roof, but the end result was beautiful. Here you can see the process of stocking the roof, getting ready for the installation of the tiles. We had the pleasure of hosting four architecture students from Japan in the summer of 2018 who learned a whole new side of architecture, the dirty side. These 4 students were the hands behind the beautifully restored tile. This simple looking project from the outside took them quite some time to complete, and I'm sure they were glad to see it finished when it was time. You'll see here they're enjoying a homemade lunch on the roof of Mantilla, just one of the many memories made during this project. I always seem to chuckle to myself when I would go and see the progress of the house, and that is because, for those of you who don't know my father, he is an extreme perfectionist. I would pull up to the site and could already hear him telling his crew to stop and redo something, even if it was as small as a cinder block being half of a centimeter off. It needed to be redone, no questions asked. This masonry unit was surgically removed from the original terrace and acted as a uniting component to bring our families, the McKinneys and the Popinchaks, together at Polymath Park. And here they are getting ready to install it on the terrace in Pennsylvania. All construction pieces aside, this project encased many different lessons and experiences for those involved. Every individual that worked with us to complete this project had a unique encounter or experience that changed the way they looked at things after it was complete. For some, that was deciding they would never build another house with that many 30 or 100-degree angles again, and for others, it made them realize they wanted more out of their day-to-day experiences. They were inspired by how this house made them feel and think. They wanted to see more out of life. This project has brought us so much more than just a house. The friendships and connections made during this process are irreplaceable. Much like this before and after photo here, it takes all of the information to know and understand a project as complex as Mantilla. From the outside looking in, this project seemed nearly impossible. A lot of people doubted my father was going to be able to complete this project and complete it well. But he knew in his heart that this project was the next step on his journey. There were so many obstacles in the way of Polymath Park becoming what it is today. And I can tell you, most people would have given up in an instant, myself included. But my dad saw all the pieces to the puzzle and kept pushing through. He knew how impactful these homes would be to people and the importance of preserving history for the next generation to enjoy. From the outside, I'm sure it may seem like my parents are crazy for going on this journey, but I can promise you these homes chose them, and they work effortlessly to ensure the history and legacy of Mr. Wright and his architecture live on in the next generation. Thank you.
Wow, Sydney, thank you so much. What a brilliant presentation. The process is all of making things and putting things together, and that all of those issues, they're all a part of it, and that brings you much closer to the architecture. Absolutely. And to Wright in this case. How far are the two sites away from one another that it was moved to?
From Minnesota, or you mean? So it was in Cloquet, Minnesota, and we're located in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So
okay, so it's quite a way, yeah.
Yes, it is, absolutely.
So it wasn't just around the corner or anything like that.
No, not at all.
So it's bad enough. It's hard enough to renovate a Wright house, but let alone move and renovate a Wright house. That was a really tour de force. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I love your personal story that you really grew up with this experience, and it's just really quite unique.
Yes.
What sort of length of time did the process take for that house?
So the Duncan House was completed in 9 months, and then Mansilla, my father was a part of the dismantlization as well as the resurrection, and that took about 3 years in total.
Right, okay. That sounds a bit more what I was expecting.
Yeah, 9 months, he was 15 years younger. Sorry, Dad, but
was that your in the last slide with the hand is that your father?
Yeah, that's his hand after completing.
Okay.
Yes.
That's him on the roof with the sort of blonde beard. Okay. Sorry, I'm just curious. I was just curious. He seems something about that picture. The guy seems like he has the charisma to take on such a project just from, I don't know, something about that image.
So there's quite a lot of comments. We'll make sure you get to see all the comments. There's a lot of comments about people that have visited the house and visited the park, and yeah, they've been blown away. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sydney. And any questions I'm trying to collect some questions after the last talk. We're going to have Q&A. So let's move to Jennifer, and who is our last speaker of this evening. Jennifer Bray is an architectural historian and curator with a special emphasis on the work of Frank Lloyd Wright. She's the director of the Taliesin Institute at the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. She studies modern architecture and how designers and activists used architecture, cities, and landscapes to advance social and spatial justice at the turn of the 20th century. She recently curated 2 exhibitions and produced 2 catalogs on Wright, including Frank Lloyd Wright at 150, Unpacking the Archive at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. She teaches in the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation at Columbia University, and is the former curator of drawings and archives at Avery Architectural and Fine Arts Library. Her work has been published in journals of architectural history and critical heritage. She is currently collaborating on an exhibition project celebrating the 100th anniversary of Wright's Imperial Hotel in Tokyo, and contributing a chapter on Wright and Elizabeth Bauer Mock to a forthcoming book on the influential and often overlooked role that women played in shaping the Museum of Modern Art. Gray previously taught at MoMA and Cornell University. She received her PhD from Columbia University. Jennifer, so happy to have you. Are you right now in Arizona, Wisconsin, New York?
I am here from Scottsdale, Arizona.
That's wonderful.
And I was seeing your beautiful fall pictures, and I was like, it's never fall here, I don't think.
That's right. Well, thank you. Whenever you're ready, we are ready too.
I am ready. My name is Jen, and today I would like to explore the theme Plant Sociology, Wright, Nature, and Democracy. The literature on Wright and nature is practically endless. Nature informed Wright's design process, his theories about education, and his sense of community. But Wright is probably most famous for his embrace of native plants and the Midwestern landscape. He was the father of a prairie school of design and created an original prairie style of architecture that purportedly embodied American democratic values, or so the story goes. It is this narrative that I would like to unpack tonight, beginning with a case study. In 1913, Wright designed a graphic for his friend, the landscape architect Jens Jensen. The design abstracts the prairie into a logo for the Friends of Our Native Landscape, an advocacy group founded by Jensen to help conserve endangered native landscapes in the Midwest. The prairie is represented as a horizontal line, together with the moon, a flowering tree, and a group of dried weeds. In a preliminary sketch, Wright includes lengthy notations to Jensen explaining the design's symbolism. One of the more surprising motifs is the swastika atop the weeds, an ancient earth symbol that Wright equates with fecundity and productivity. But he also relates it to the displacement of Native Americans, explaining that, quote, "We are taking over the landscape and trust from the Indians," end quote. He also cites the author Hamlin Garland, a founding member of the Friends and an advocate for Native American rights. The prairie thus conjured in the graphic reveals nature to be a contested territory where competing political interests play themselves out. In referencing the forcible removal of Native Americans from their lands, Wright was tapping into a broad public discourse on nature and American identity, famously popularized by Frederick Jackson Turner in 1893, when he delivered his frontier thesis at the Chicago World's Fair. The rigors of settling the frontier, argued Turner, cultivated a spirit of independence, self-reliance, and egalitarianism that was uniquely American. Nature, specifically the domestication of wilderness and appropriation of indigenous lands, became the crucible through which a national identity was forged. By the time of the World's Fair, however, industrialization and migration had eradicated or fundamentally altered most of the frontier, galvanizing a national conservation movement that aimed to preserve the few remaining parcels of wilderness that remained. Large national parks such as Yellowstone were formed around this time, and regional organizations such as the Friends worked to safeguard local nature preserves, such as the Indiana Dunes southwest of Chicago. Touring these landscapes was actively promoted by conservation groups, politicians, and even industries such as railroads as a modern means of reenacting the frontier and thereby safeguarding American democracy. And in the case of the railroads, I'm sure to make money too. Since the 1890s, Jensen had been a vocal supporter of natural gardens and indigenous plant species, both for economic and environmental reasons. He pioneered the emerging field of ecology, which was called plant sociology at the time, which studied plants as living communities in which flora coexisted in ecological association rather than as autonomous organisms. This was an irresistible metaphor for the kinds of democratic communities that many activists hoped to forge. It should be noted that the turn of the century was a time of unprecedented immigration to the United States, and it could be argued that the discourse around native landscapes, native plants, and American identity emerged as a troublesome biological metaphor for grappling with challenging social tensions. Jensen and the Friends conducted environmental surveys, hosted prairie walks, published recommendations, and lobbied public officials on conservation matters. They were highly successful, conserving dozens of prominent sites in the Midwest. Publications celebrating the virtues of the prairie landscape and native plants abounded, and countless philanthropic agencies, vacation schools, and walking clubs organized prairie excursions in order to reunite the people of Chicago with this genius loci of democracy. Wright collaborated with Jensen on several commissions that intersected with such concepts, one of which was the Sherman Booth House in 1911. Booth was a founding member and secretary of the Friends of Our Native Landscape and also board chairman of the Glencoe Park system. The site was adjacent to a surviving prairie forest that Jensen was lobbying to preserve. At one point in its design, the project even encompassed 2 public parks accessible by railroads, presumably to increase public access to its landscape. Jensen's landscape design incorporated native plants, meandering prairie rivers lined with stratified rocks, and 2 campfires, or council rings as he called them. Council rings were for Jensen symbols of American identity, derived from a Native American and pioneer rituals. They also were powerful agents of democracy. To quote Jensen, "In this friendly circle around the fire, there is no social caste. All are on the same level, looking each other in the face." The appropriation of Native American symbols and rituals by Wright, Jensen, and many other wilderness advocates raises further questions with regard to their purportedly democratic goals. Such contradictions were embodied in a ceremonial mass performed at meetings of the Friends. The play, which reenacted the expulsion of Native Americans from their lands, the myth of the enterprising pioneer, and the advancement of industrialization, is striking for how it recapitulates American imperialism. The setting rotated to various endangered landscapes that the Friends hoped to conserve, thus naturalizing the violence that accompanied Manifest Destiny. What do the shortcomings of nature to advance democracy mean for Wright and his dedication to those very ideals? One clue lies in a lecture Wright delivered to the Fellowship Club in Oak Park in 1900. He concludes his talk not with commentary about plants or garden design, but with the argument that, despite private property rights, individuals have a social responsibility to cultivate their landscape for the well-being of their neighbors. Wright framed landscape in terms of community. Perhaps understanding that nature was not, in fact, natural, but constructed, Wright shifted the conversation from one about ecosystems to one about social systems. Access to nature of any kind is unequal. It is in realizing that landscape and nature are mutually embedded with and indeed created by social and political systems that Wright is closest to realizing his democratic ambitions. Thank you. I got my timing kind of right. I was very worried about that.
Perfect.
Anyone who knows me knows how much I talk and how fast, and this was a very challenging exercise.
That was perfect. Jennifer, thank you. Yeah, that again, another interesting facet of Frank Lloyd Wright's work and world, I was going to say, yeah, with the landscape being so important.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought there that the native landscape was really important. That's quite a modern thought when at that time, yeah. So
yeah, I mean,
I was just amazed.
I particularly like the abstraction of kind of the bookending that you showed him abstracting the prairie is kind of
yeah.
nice
I tried to dove with yours.
yeah.
I always wonder, how was it to all of a sudden have access to all those drawings? Because you were at the library overseeing some of that, right? And
yeah, I was at Avery when the archive was there, and then curating the show at MoMA. I spent like a year in the archive, and it was just amazing. And I, scratched the surface probably on the amount of material there, but I had never seen that Jensen graphic before, so that was one of my discoveries.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so there's just really rich, history and information there that's untapped still to this day. So go.
Oh, what a treat to see and like in person those drawings. And what's beautiful about it now is that there's relatively easy access, right, to those resources, if as long as people are willing to travel to New York City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is such a terrible thing. I mean, it's just it's such a yeah. It's just really, I think I had experience of going to Taliesin West to see the archives before, and it was just an amazing experience. But I think right now there's many more people who can experience those beautiful.
Yeah, hopefully make it as open as possible.
Yeah. Well, everyone, we have a bunch of questions. If you don't mind, we can go back to some of those. And hopefully we can answer at least half of it. Well, going back to Kieran, there was a question: do the different colors on the facade drawings correspond to dates that they were built or restored?
Kieran, you're muted. Let's unmute you.
Oh.
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Damn, sorry. Yes, it corresponds to dates that they were built. When I first had the slide, I had all of the, the graphics of like blue means these years and yellow means these years. And I was like, no, people watching PechaKucha are not going to be reading what blue and yellow and red. So yeah, but it's all dates. Yeah, the oldest date is red. So
and could you remind us the oldest date? What is that?
Oh, thank you. The oldest date is 1911.
Okay.
And the dates mostly go through Frank Lloyd Wright's lifetime, and then there's a dark gray that is post-Wright. A few changes made after his lifetime, but most of them are 1911 through the 50s.
There is a question for Norman Dale, a question you probably heard before. Is the original built-in furniture comfortable? Does it work for living? And how many guests can you comfortably host when the weather is good?
Well, that's an easy one. We do that with fair regularity. Generally, we try to limit the guest count to about 150 when it's good weather, guaranteed good weather. If it's marginal, we will limit it to about 80 because everybody has to come inside.
The furniture fit everyone that's participated tonight. That's what you're saying.
Oh yeah,
right.
Actually, we've had I think about 300 people with us tonight, so we might have to have a 2-night party.
We'll do that
a whole weekend party.
a week long.
But the furniture is really quite comfortable. It's interesting, entertaining, because people will move the hassocks around into different groups. There might be four people, and then the conversation seems interesting, and a couple more hassocks will get slid into it. The music room, that long bench, will hold about 20 people. So in this room that we're in now, we can seat around 30 to 35 people. And the bench is comfortable. It's upright, like a formal dining chair. And so people sit there for a while, but it's definitely not lounge furniture, but it's easy to get in and out of, up and down, slightly higher. So it functions real well for entertaining.
And how many bedrooms does the house have?
So originally it had 5,
Okay.
and we have repurposed one as a new bathroom, because if you saw the original bathroom, it doesn't work in today's lifestyle, but it reflects the cabinetry and all reflects the original cabinetry. So it looks like an updated version of maybe a bathroom that was here.
Yeah,
And
the original 4 foot by 6 foot.
Yes,
Oh.
with one light and no mirror. And all the bathtubs are 4 feet. And Mrs. Turkel apparently didn't want the bathroom that Wright designed, so she has a pink and blue, a turquoise, and a blue bathroom. They were as-built, but not what Wright spec'd.
That sounds, I mean, it's just someone also asked, how long the house was vacant. Could you remind us?
At least 2 years it was empty, and it had no functioning system, so no heating. Didn't work, the plumbing didn't work, the electrical sparked, and so all of that, and the roof leaked like a sieve. So we had to really start it at the beginning.
She moved out in 1978. She sold it to someone else who I believe lost the house. And then it went through a series of owners. Tom Monahan, who was the founder of Domino's Pizza, purchased it, and he really didn't do anything with the house. He had students from U of D, University of Detroit, architecture students, stay here for a few years. And then it went through a couple of owners that really didn't do anything to maintain the house. So when we got it, it really was in rough shape.
Well, someone made a comment, you two and this home are a shining example to an ideal restoration. So, and you have many, many more comments. People are just wowed by your property and your work on it. And also your generosity that you opened this house to so many worthy causes. So I think I have also a comment from for Sydney that one of our participants said that they just were at Polymath Park this past weekend, and they think the Lindholm residence is absolutely spectacular. So we must remind people that this is the place where you can go and stay overnight, and it's nearby Falling Water and Kentuck Knob. So it's just this whole package. It's really quite amazing. Not to mention the nature surrounding all of those properties. It's just quite perfect. There are some new questions. If you guys can jump in and help me with those, that would be great. I know that they continue coming in. And someone asked if there would be links reposted from chat, and we will follow up with, we had over 500 registrants. And so we want to make sure that people who registered have all the links, whether they join us tonight or not, hopefully they can watch it afterwards as well. And we're going to provide those links as well. So no worries about that. Let me see if I can find some more questions.
I see somebody who has a question. I see we have a new attendee on our panelist crew. Hi, Kevin. Oh, I just saw his I see you biting at the, what is that? Biting at the, what's the word? Anyway, I'm just about to
Yeah,
forgot the expression. He's got a
people,
question. He's just ready to get.
No, I was looking through the questions. I was gonna mention,
okay.
It's
surely,
nice.
Surely you've got lots of interest in all of these projects.
I certainly do.
Just FYI, this is not a hacker that came all of a sudden online.
On my way in.
He's legit. He's my husband, and we organized PechaKucha and Springfield together. So welcome, Kevin, and help me with questions.
And I was on dad duty the first part of the night, so I missed the very beginning. I was tuned in as all of you, just participating and enjoying the talks. And then when I got home, I joined in as a panelist. So I'm glad to be here. I was looking through and some people commented their donations, and I just wanted to, I know this isn't a telethon. Maybe we should make it like a telethon. But just to thank those people that people are pointing out that they donated, and it's a good cause supporting these sites. So
thank you.
Thank you so much. There is I think there was a question about, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I have a question. As a layman, as a non-architect person, what's the difference between, or maybe they're the same, I'm even a little embarrassed to ask, what's the difference between an automatic Usonian and a Usonian?
Who wants to answer it?
I just heard that, yeah, I thought there were hundreds.
Automatic,
go ahead. Please.
Automatic Usonians use concrete blocks.
Okay.
You use them as like building blocks.
Okay.
And then you
automatically put them together. Okay.
Yeah, the automatic is that they're supposed to be DIY, like do it yourself. Like you cast the blocks yourself and you build the house yourself. In practice, most of the owners use contractors, but yeah, it's a concrete block system that was meant to be like an affordable housing kind of solution.
I see.
And then the Usonian houses tend to have, a wood kind of construction technique, also meant to be more affordable and kind of smaller and things like that. But the construction technique is different, and those come for a little earlier in his career. But they're both attempts to deal with like affordable housing.
So about the couple of Usonian homes that I've visited, I'm always kind of impressed by how compressed and small they are, and I'm like, maybe the people who lived here were much smaller than me. And yet I'm looking at Dale. I'm looking at I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the house.
Westcott House.
Yes, and I'm thinking like, wow, there's 180 people and the 2 stories, and this, hosting all of these people, and this is an exception to the rule. Is it's sort of an un-Usonian home? Is that about? Do I have that about right? Or are many of those? Were there homes of that scale? Many of them out there. Are there big Usonian homes that can host many big Usonian homes that can host hundreds of people?
Not too many big scale, right? It's
right,
very unusual.
Right.
We have one in Cincinnati, Boswell House, that is really unusually large for Usonian, but it's kind of quite unusual.
Yeah, there's a sizable one that is actually for sale for the first time in its history, just outside of Racine, Wisconsin, the Keeland House that was just listed the other day. So. If you want to get a viewing,
go for it, guys.
better reach out to the realtor now. We heard that they've already got 6 viewings scheduled this weekend.
Cool.
So it's also a 5-bedroom, or it's.
I don't know how many. I don't think it's 5-bedroom though. I think it might be a 4-bedroom house, the Keeland House.
So there was one comment from Timothy asking if it was possible to play the piano, and gentlemen, I'm not actually asking you to go back and play the piano, but I think this is a good moment to mention our friend Jack Quinnen in his research and phenomenology with Frank Lloyd Wright, and how important sound is with these houses, how important smell is with these houses. And we need to acknowledge that PechaKucha is amazing. We can't necessarily get smell out to everyone around the globe. But it's so important that Wright is more than just a visual architect. There's so much to the sound of these homes and how people experience them, even if he didn't intend for that experience to occur. So Timothy, I appreciate that question. I don't think we'll ask our panelists to go back and now play us a song on the piano impromptu, but it's a great thought.
We can't play the piano, but we just shot a music video here a couple of weeks ago. And everybody remarked about how fabulous the acoustics were. They said, "Have you ever recorded here? Have you ever had anything done?" We're like, "No," but we're all really impressed with the acoustics. And you would think that it might bounce off all this concrete, that it might not be a good sound. But we've had, we hosted a symphony luncheon here, and they had a small group of musicians that played in the music room, and the sound was amazing. But
yeah, the music video is going to be out in mid-October, and the artist's name was
Joanne Shaw Taylor. She's a country blues singer. She's British, but when she sings the blues, you would never hear that British accent at all. So it was a lot of.
I feel like we're planning our party, so we could have 150 people. We're gonna have someone on the piano.
I agree.
Right.
We can always offer services of our daughter and son who can play. How does it go? There's place in France.
Oh, the da 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 da
da da da.
I don't think we can say the lyrics on. This is a polite crowd, Marta. That was their father's contribution on teaching them piano.
Yeah.
And the history of our piano, it's the only mid-century piano that Steinway ever designed. This is the piano that was designed for Steinway's 100th anniversary in 1955 by Walter Dorwin Teague. And we were lucky enough to have that piano. They reproduce it now on their website. So, but it's
Marta and I live
mid-century piano we ever did.
Marta and I live just a couple blocks from their piano plate factory.
Oh.
So it's actually, you pass it on the way to Westcott House.
Yeah, in Springfield, Ohio. Yeah.
So your plate on the bottom of it, you can't see it, but it says Springfield, Ohio. A family connected to the Westcott House.
Oh, really? That's amazing.
Check that out.
Kieran, someone is asking about the current state of the buildings and what's the most concerning critical area that is currently taken care of. They acknowledge that maintenance of Taliesin is never ending, right?
Right. Right now they are doing the restoration of the Hillside Theater.
Okay.
And that has been something that the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation has been involved with for over a year and a half. I do not know what their next project is. I know that there is, they hope to do a series of rooms that you can see from Taliesin's lower court, but that has not been planned yet. So I know Mr. Wright's living quarters are doing very well. They've done a lot of work in the last, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years to make it really good. So that's about what I can say.
And Eric, there was a comment from Gail who said your presentation parallels my quilting process. Really enjoyed your steps of design. So thank you for that comment, Gail.
Yeah, it's interesting because it does essentially plug into what I found and kind of doing the research and appreciation of all the various different practitioners of these types of, Taliesin abstractions, that there's some underlying principles and methodologies that, Wright really honed to perfection and then taught his own students, and they absorbed, but then interpreted and executed things in their own way, put it through the lens of their own creativity and expression. And so if you kind of are tuned into those principles, then you'll see similarities in abstraction and the use of geometry and the use of a grid, structure. And so there's similarities that kind of filter through, quite a few of them, but just like people are individuals, their creative works are individuals in that way then too.
Yeah, and Eric, you speaking gives me a chance to mention R.A. Georges. If you've noticed, I'm wearing this red t-shirt with a white design that is horizontal. That is R.A. Georges's abstract interpretation of Taliesin. And yeah, you can actually get that if you go to the Frank Lloyd Wright Visitor Center at taliesinpreservation.org. They have t-shirts and mugs and pens, I think, with all of this design.
Coasters.
Any of you have liked it?
Yeah, coasters.
Yes, no, Ari is fantastic, and I've been very lucky to get to know him, and he's definitely the wellspring of this information. So, and he's definitely one of the good ones.
Jennifer, could you tell us the Institute? How is it you are leading that effort, and it's based in Arizona, right?
Yeah, sure. I can say a few words about it. The Taliesin Institute is a new educational initiative that the foundation just launched this few months ago. It's brand new, and it will span both the Taliesins. So the idea is that there'll be educational programs happening on both campuses. I'm based in Scottsdale, but the institute itself will operate kind of across both campuses. But the goal is essentially to have an educational arm that supports and participates and creates academic programs. So, we're hosting graduate students onto the sites. We have about 8 or 9 different schools that are coming this semester. They stay from anywhere from like 10 days to like maybe a 3-day kind of stint, and we put them up in residence and do classes and preservation studios and things like that. We're going to be offering lifelong learning classes next term so that just folks interested in the built environment can also take classes on site and online. We're doing exhibition projects. In the future, we're going to be supporting residencies, maybe writers in residence and artists in residence. So kind of a whole host of academic, and scholarly type programs. So it's so new. I don't have a ton of specific programs yet, but to be continued. It's coming. So yeah, it's a new exciting adventure, and I'm really happy to be part of it.
And bunch of those programs will be available to the general public, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the thoughts with the Institute was to kind of distill Wright's thoughts about education and the fellowship, bring them up to the contemporary moment, not recreate things. But, he was very involved in education and educational theories throughout his life, not just with regards to the Taliesin and the fellowship, but from the beginning, and his whole family was, so to kind of get back to those origins. So yes, it will be, graduate students and college students, but also lifelong learners and public conferences and symposiums. So the idea is to, make it broadly accessible. Yes.
Well, thank you. And, so we hope that all these talks will be placed on PechaKucha website, so people can pick and choose individual talks, and they continue to be watched. So it has a life of its own, and it's really wonderful to have speakers from covering so many different, as you can see, from homeowners to curators to people who are simply passionate about this subject. So we're gonna archive the chat and see if there's any questions that we can share answers with the public following the event. But I know that we are approaching 9 o'clock, so we probably need to let you all go.
Let's do a group photo, Marta.
Oh yes, absolutely. This is our tradition, and it's just so fun to have those. So yeah,
I love that top one of Brian. One in from the top.
That was just being a silly. That was me being silly. But
there's some good pictures.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, again, I'm reminded of all the amazing presenters that we have already, and it's really great that we get to add today's presentations to this amazing archive. We'll continue doing our best to spotlight it and share and continue celebrating Frank Lloyd Wright's work and legacy. So
I just want to say that the Marta's background is not a virtual background. It's real. All right. I thought she just got a virtual background when we first met 3 years ago, but it's really great to see the light change there. Yeah, it was that daylight when we started. So
speaking of
lovely,
parties,
really great venue.
It's a great party house. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a party too. Yeah. Let's go on the tour, party tour. All right, everybody, just give me a nice smile at your camera. 3, 2, 1. One more. One for good measure.
Do we do hands?
3. Yeah, sure. Whatever you
Hands,
like.
yeah, we're doing hands.
3, 2, 1. Nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you our audience. You've been great with all the questions, and we so appreciate your comments about all the all the presentations, and your appreciation that's why we do it. So we are grateful also. I was looking at all the places from Berlin to Buffalo, Honolulu, Puerto Rico, Mexico, Cleveland.
Wow.
I mean, it's just like Canada, Australia. It's amazing. It's amazing. We are so happy to see everyone here. So thank you. We'll be in touch. We'll follow up with email to inform everyone once this is online, and also with some follow-up links. So thank you, PechaKucha.
Thank you, everybody.
Amazing.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Marta. Big round of applause for Marta for organizing all this.
Everybody.
Marta.
Thank you, Conservancy, and
right.
thank you, fabulous speakers. Thank you for being here tonight.
Yay. Bye-bye from Tokyo.
Okay, see you guys. Bye, everybody.
Have a good day and have a good night.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.